So today, the question we are going to be exploring is self-forgiveness. My goodness, one of the hardest things for anybody to do. The research has been amazing to show that there's all these factors that are needed for healing, including self-forgiveness, ability to see the situation from the bird's eye view, to see it from the other person's perspective, to, self-regulation. But what they kept finding in the research was everybody is terrible at self-compassion, and everybody will try anything else, no matter how absurd, before they try self-compassion. So I encourage you to go ahead and try it. The story for me is that the only way that I was able to start with self-compassion was to spite my therapist. So I was going to a therapist, and she pretty much stopped responding to everything I was saying, except to say, forgive the part of you that thinks you should have it all figured out. Forgive the part of you that's still mad at that person. Forgive the part of you that thinks you have to be perfect to be loved. And, of course, in session, I smiled and nodded and said, oh, yes, so helpful. But then afterwards, I was like, what am I paying her for? That, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do so much self-compassion. I'm gonna show her that just responding to everything with forgive myself doesn't work. And so but that was what I was needed. And within 24 hours, I felt like my life had changed. Because I wasn't doing memory hoarding anymore. What it did that I didn't realize at the time was, my door number one was to beat myself up for hours and hours and hours and replay events. And that by practicing self-forgiveness, even begrudgingly, I was able to break out of that door number one. And I was able to try any other door. And again, I did it super bratty, okay, I forgive myself. Now what? Okay, now I'm in this moment. Now what? And, but because I didn't engage in the memory hoarding. I didn't engage in the internal compulsions. I just kind of waited and paused for that next thought or feeling to come. And it was amazing how much time and energy I had. And so I hope to give this to y'all. Do it despite me. I invite you to do it. Try to prove me wrong, whatever it takes to get you to actually try it, and would be, is just the suggestion. Part of self-forgiveness and part of when we're in the pause is being a non-judgmental observer of our thoughts and feelings. And so a common mistake that people make is being judgmental about their own self. And so it's in that example, I was being judgmental of the process, but not of myself. And that was an important shift that was happening. And it can be hard with OCD because the tendency is to either blame something else or to blame ourselves. And so the whole point is to not get stuck there. It's fine to start there. It's fine to feel that way. And our goal is not to get stuck in that place. And so, part of it is we can be the non-judgmental observer. We allow emotions or thoughts without judgment. The meditation practice of watching them go through the sky. And, the emotion coaching part that I may talk about later. And so a common mistake for students is being judgmental of themselves while they're practicing self-forgiveness. I mean, of course you're being judgmental of yourself, but that is the meta way of it, And then the other part of it is, that self-forgiveness. Well, maybe that's where I would talk about this. For me, the self-forgiveness included that, recognizing I'm not enough. And I had to just allow that part of me to be not enough. And I had to allow her to feel that without, me changing her. The more I tried to tell her, you're enough, the more that part of me is okay, you're telling me enough, but I still don't feel enough, so I must not be enough. And it makes me feel less enough. And so, that's where one of the things we're really going to be exploring as we go through this course is that, what to do if the first pathway doesn't work, let's try a different one. And that this is another one that can really, I found to be super helpful.